Okay, this is our inaugural video, our inaugural Beyond the Realm ASMR video. So we're going to be less tingle oriented and more just kind of content and fun stuff. Sit back and relax and enjoy. Okay, one of the things I really like to collect, I'm going to be straight up with you, is barware, martini glasses. I collect all sorts of interesting artifacts associated with mixology. I was I was on a trip 3 years ago, and I went to China, and I picked up these amazing shot glasses. And the thing about shot glasses in Asia is they get a lot of heavy use, especially if you are traveling on business. It's just kind of a foregone conclusion that you're going to be throwing back a lot of shots. So shot glasses are very popular. These are really interesting. They've got etched dragons on all four of these, and they're a kind of a heavier lead crystal weight, so they're really a great piece. I really just have a lot of fun with these. By the way, if you're in Korea and you have the chance to go to a Noribang or a karaoke bar, one of the typical shots that you might get would be a tequila shot. But what they do is before you fill it up, you'll take a coaster and you'll put chili pepper on it. You'll dip it. Then you'll fill that shot glass halfway with tequila and the rest with club soda. And you'll get a nice kick with that chili pepper on there. Let's move on to something kind of fun. All right, these I think are fascinating. I was in Seattle on a trip visiting a friend of mine and went to a store called Archie McPhee's. Archie McPhee's is a great store to pick up really unusual, crazy, off-the-wall souvenirs or gifts that'll just blow you away. These are baby salt and pepper shakers. And of course, they're rather evil looking because they're a gray and a sort of an ivory color. But imagine placing these out on your table before you serve the entree, and you'll have your guests wondering, what is this guy going to serve? These are ceramic, and you can see they've got the 3 holes for the pepper, 2 holes for the salt, and the little removable little plugs there. And they're simply very simplistically labeled on the bottom accoutrements. So the company that made these is called Accoutrement. Let's stick in the realm of tableware, and I want to show you guys something really interesting. This is the ultimate portion control, as it says on our portion control plate. It's 4 inches in diameter, and there's only so much food you can pile. Of course, you could pile it high, but there's only so much food you can put on this plate, especially if you're in Thanksgiving dinner, and a real great dietary option rather than those expensive meal plans. Here's something you're going to really think is cool. If you traveled on the Titanic on its maiden voyage, and you traveled in first class, you would have received as part of your accoutrement, speaking of accoutrement, for your gentleman's package, a shaving jar. And this shaving jar would have been used to whip up your foam. You add the powder, and you would add water, and then take your brush and swirl it up and build your lather, and then start shaving with a straight razor. And even on the bottom, it says, it's really interesting. It says authentic replica Titanic artifact. So this is pretty much exactly what they would have received in first class. And on the label, it says HP TrueFit Limited. It gives a very convoluted address. And they're partnered with a company called Brighton and Aldershot. And that was, if they were featured at other retailers, where you just would pile on the label on the product and advertise for them. So quite interesting, actually. So we're going to take a look at this and see what other applications it might have. But there's a number of things you could use with this, and I'm thinking it could be a coin jar as well. We'll stay in the ceramic and pottery category here, and we're going to go to a very interesting. This is one of my prized pieces. It was actually given to me by my mom. And essentially what this is a miniature replica of the Terracotta Soldiers, and we're all probably familiar with the emperors in China who passed on, and to take with them to the afterworld so that they could defend their honor or defend their heavenly kingdom. It was very important for them to have troops and have an army with them. So, in fact, what they did was they would build life-size replicas of soldiers in various positions. Some of them were samurais, like this guy who's in the kneeling position, but many of them were fully equipped with swords and fighting gear, and each of them had an individual face on them. So no two were identical. They were quite different, and each had its own sort of personality. They were weighted differently, so some of the soldiers were heavier than others. Very, very fantastic artifact. I love to have this on my desk. It is missing a little piece in the back here, but I think that gives it some patina. Let's move on to glassware. I've got some great stuff. By the way, if you decide you want to like and subscribe to my videos, we've got a bunch more coming your way. One of them is my martini glass collection, which we're going to evaluate. I've got a wonderful collection of martini glasses and other barware, and we're going to get into that very thoroughly in the future with some new videos. This is something I'm really, really excited about. This is a bottle of Crystal Head Vodka. You'll see the name right on the back there. Crystal Head Vodka is a company founded by Dan Aykroyd and a few other distillers. And Dan and his friends created Crystal Head Vodka, and it was the basis for their concept was the crystal skulls, which are found in South America, allegedly left by aliens tens of thousands of years ago. And the crystal skulls were said to have maintained an energy field, and they could be used for communication and telepathic um, messages and communication with otherworldly creatures or amongst even human beings themselves. So, very interesting bottle. I actually have a miniature here too of the product. This would be just one shot of their amazing vodka. Both of these are emptied. They've already been consumed, but I have kept them as obviously collectibles. Note something very interesting here. Dan Aykroyd's signature. A friend of mine who I used to work with happened to be at a local grocery store in New Orleans, and Dan Aykroyd was on a whirlwind signing tour. And he was signing his Crystal Head vodka bottles in the store, and she happened to pick up one with his signature on it. I think that's totally cool. One of my prized possessions, I gotta tell you. I just absolutely love this. Let's stay in the clear glass and clear resin category and move on to something very interesting. This is another one of my favorite objects that I've got in my private collection. This is a embedded insect. This company actually does a lot of this, and their specimens are usually very sort of interesting or colorful insects. I'll just use the portion control plate as a backdrop here. They usually find very exotic or colorful, though not rare, insects and embed them in this wonderful clear lucite. This happens to be a green rose chafer beetle, and this beetle was embedded bubble free. This is the true art of embedding specimens, is to put them in a block of lucite with absolutely zero bubble. And that was what transpired here, and that's what this particular company is really known for. The other thing that's really cool is their boxes. I think their boxes are just amazing. There's a scorpion graphic on the exterior of this box, and they've got a little cubby, so it just sort of fits right in there. There's the scorpion. I think the scorpion is their logo. Fits right in. I just love this piece. It's amazing. All right, let's move on to something really interesting. And that would be this toothbrush. This toothbrush was purchased at the Trump Hotel in Chicago, Illinois. It's made by a company called Swissco Extra Soft. And this material, the bristles, are badger hair. And the badger hair, actually the way it's installed on the toothbrush, is quite supple. It's got a good resistance to it. It'd be great for sort of caressing, but still brushing and maintaining good oral hygiene. And I just love this. It's never been used, but I also love the tortoise shell handle on it. I think that's really cool. Tortoise shell is just the neatest stuff, and it goes back, it goes back to the early 20th century when acetate plastic was kind of discovered and used in a lot of plastic product production. And I think it's really neat. Not the same hotel, but here is something that I think is really interesting. That's a Ritz Hotel shoehorn that you would have received. And I think they were giving these out until, I'd say, the last maybe 10 years. You just don't see them anymore. But it's also tortoiseshell. It has the Ritz gold name emblazoned on it. Just a great little artifact from a hotel if you collect that sort of thing. So we got the Ritz Hotel, we've got the Trump Hotel, and sort of going along with it, I just happen to have a St. Regis Hotel key card. I don't have any other artifacts, but I do collect key cards as well. And this is from the St. Regis in Atlanta, Georgia. And just a great hotel, a wonderful property, actually. So I kept this card and really enjoy it in my collection. So we'll set those aside, some really wonderful artifacts there. Let's get to something really kind of pop culturist and fun. In 2012, I took my then 17-year-old son on a trip of a lifetime, and that was to see Saturday Night Live, an actual live broadcast. I have a friend in the entertainment industry, and she was able to get us 2 tickets to a Saturday Night Live taping on February 11, 2012. And these are the wristbands that we got for that trip. And it was such a great weekend. We stayed at a nice hotel. We had a great couple of meals at local places where New Yorkers eat. One of them was a Thai restaurant that was just killer. It was just absolutely amazing. And I really loved that trip and that time with my son. And he'll always remember that trip for the rest of his life. I think it was just great. Let's get on to something really kind of fun as well. I'm not a regular Hobby Lobby shopper, but I was in the Hobby Lobby, the local Hobby Lobby here about maybe a couple of years ago. Happened to be going through it's like a man cave area where they've got all sorts of stuff for guys, and they had this saber-toothed tiger skull replica, and it was just kind of plain. It was like bone white, didn't have a lot of the didn't have a real archaeologic or fossil replica look to it. So I kind of tricked it up a little bit. I took some wood stain and applied wood stain to the tusks or the incisors, and I kind of treated all the teeth the same way, and hit the inside of the skull and the tops where the cranial. I think they have a term for that, an anatomical term, maybe fissures or something. Kind of had all those, stained that, did all the teeth, and tricked it up a little bit. It gave it more of an actual fossil kind of look, which I think is really cool. So another great artifact. What I actually use this for is for in and out mail, and I just take my letters and place them on the lower jaw, and it makes a really cool desk item. So here's something that I think you're really going to think is absolutely amazing. These are very interesting stones here, or it's essentially raw precious stones. This is lapis lazuli. Lapis lazuli is an amazing material, amazing precious gemstone, semi-precious stone actually. It's known for its rich cobalt blue, and this is raw, so you can still see that. I mean, it hasn't been polished or hasn't been shined, but there's an interesting story behind this lapis lazuli. You'll notice all the white material, which is quartz that sort of runs through it. It's difficult to find an actual pure piece like this. Most of it has pyrite, which is fool's gold, kind of flecked in it, as well as quartz. When you break it up, sometimes you can find smaller pieces that can be used for gemstone purposes. The real interesting thing about these particular raw pieces is that These were seized in Afghanistan and were used as currency by ISIS fighters, these actual stones. They were part of a 23,000-pound lot that was seized by the United States Army and handed over to the FBI, and the FBI ended up keeping them for a number of years, and then once they decided to get rid of them, they included them in a blind auction. And a friend of mine purchased I think $50,000 worth of this lot that cost $50,000, and essentially part of it was 23,000 pounds of this ISIS currency taken away from them. So it's nice to see the fruits of anti-terrorism at work, and these are real time. You hold them in your hand, and you can imagine somebody using them as a $20 bill or a $10 bill or whatever the value was, and then having that taken away from you so you can no longer do your evil stuff anymore. All right, flip side of the equation here, we're going to go to something kind of interesting. Crime scene bandages, also purchased at a store called Archie McPhee's in Seattle. Really, really interesting stuff here. We got some fun things. Crime scene bandages, and when you open them up, you don't know what quite to expect here. This is about the third one I've used here, but you open them up, and sure enough, crime scene, do not enter. And so if you've got a little boo-boo or your friend has one, you just throw that Band-Aid on there, and nobody will come near your crime scene bandage, your wound. It's also got a free prize inside. These are sold at Archie McPhee, and they're made by a company called Accoutrement. Accoutrement seems to be pretty popular with really kitschy kind of stuff. They also make something that I think is really cool, and that is bacon flavored toothpaste. Makes your breath bacon fresh. Really cool looking graphics on this thing. I just think that's awesome. But I can only imagine what it tastes like. Of course, I haven't opened the tube, so I'm just going to imagine what it tastes like and keep it for posterity. Very cool looking graphics with the mint green, kind of up against that red. I just really love it. Really cool. And we've got something to kind of go along with that pairs well with it. And that would be before you brush your teeth, you would chow down on these bacon gummy strips. Isn't that awesome? These are gummies, and I'm assuming that they look like a kind of a fillet, like fillet slices rather than bacon, don't they? That's very, very interesting. So anyway, we'll set those aside and move along to something I know you all hold dear to your heart. If you're not necessarily a smoker, but a collector of cool stuff. And that's old school Zippo Lighter. Nothing like that sound. I'm telling you, that snapping sound and the smell of lighter fluid. I tell you what, it smells like a victory. Just absolutely cool. It's got the emblem of the Hard Rock Hotel. Also purchased this in Chicago, along with my Donald Trump toothbrush, and happened to be right next door to. I should have put this with the hotel assembly there, the Ritz, the Trump, the St. Regis, and the Hard Rock. But this is kind of an item all to itself. I just think it's really, really something. Another thing that I'd like to show you from my trip to China in 2016 are these talismans, these good fortune, good luck talismans. These were picked up in China, and I was in I think Shanghai when I got these. These are something that every house in China, every family has, and you have them hanging all over the place. They're a talisman, and they have a glass element to them, which is very intricate. It has a calligraphic design in the center of it. It's got this wonderful rich gold tassel. Got some nice weight to it too. It has a lot of weight. And then this embroidered piece here, which I think is really, really cool, and that's something you would hang to ward off evil spirits, and for some reason they always are sold as a set, so I'm not sure why that is. Anyway, let's be done with that and move on to something kind of fun, and that would be these, which are a little assorted pack, 7 packs of Existentialist Gum. And there's a little quote under Existentialist there that says, "Hell is other people." And it's gum, and each of them is devoted to a philosopher. We have Kierkegaard, we've got Nietzsche, we've got Dostoevsky, and we've got a few other characters in there. They had their wayward thinking, and again, these all came from a great little store in Seattle called Archie McPhee. But your Existentialist Gum is always available for you when you need to uh, wax philosophic. Here's something I think is really cool. 3 tickets to an Eric Clapton concert. These are Ticketmaster stubs. I have to say, I think that Ticketmaster stubs are very interesting. They're very cool graphically because when you look at a stub, and the Ticketmaster puts a lot more information on them than most, it's a memento. It's an amazing memento because it's got everything you want. It's got the name of the artist, where it is, it's got the date, time, all your seat information. And I just like the way they do it graphically. It's something you want to put this in a frame, but maybe not quite because everybody can go to an Eric Clapton concert or, Aerosmith or uh, ECDC, not anymore, but you could a few years back. But an Eric Clapton concert is kind of a twice in a lifetime, 3 times in a lifetime event, unless you're a real concert hound and you might follow them around. But these have sentimental value to me too. But I just think they're so cool. I just love the way those are made. Here's something I think you'll think is really, really fun. We've got some mints, not just any mints. We've got Grump mints. Grump mints makes complaining even sweeter. And we've got Narcissus mints that are all about you. And we've got narwhal horns. Really interesting. Those spears on the front of a narwhal, I would imagine what these are shaped like, but I have not opened them yet. Um, cool little tins of mints that are kind of fun, right? Kind of hard to find something like that, but I really think that's amazing. And I've got something else here I wanted to show you that's really interesting. This is a piece of lead crystal, and this lead crystal was made in a glass factory. You can't see the etching on the bottom because it's very, very finely detailed. These are from this particular piece is from Norway, and it's just a wonderful rendition of our little planet. And then you hold it in the palm of your hand, and you realize just how small our world is. It's coated with probably a 2 or 3, 4 millimeters of exterior glass, which gives it sort of an atmospheric look, which I think is really amazing. I just love this piece. Purchased from a company called The Nature Company. It was a big operation that was in almost every mall in the United States, and they went out of business in about 1990 or so. They kept an online presence for a while, but they didn't really last. All right, I've got something really amazing here again from China, my visit to Shanghai. These are artist brushes. It looks like I'm going to roll out a placemat, but actually I'm not. These are artist brushes. These brushes are totally amazing. And not just any brush that you would expect to see like a painter's brush. This is a calligraphic brush meant for sign making. Very broad strokes. I mean, the strokes would be, 2.5 inches wide. But also for ASMR, for one-on-one ASMR, or just, just that tactile feeling of a brush. Just incredible. Just really something. We've got a bamboo shaft. We've got a resin vessel here in which the bristles or the feathers all kind of fit tightly. And, if you dip this in paint and you swirl it, you can actually get this thing very, very, very fine. Not excessively fine because this is a coarse brush, as is this brush here. This brush has horsehair. I just love this because it's such a nice piece of work, just real craftsmanship there. Again, the bamboo handle on it. We've got Chinese characters here that are really just amazing. Very, very finely detailed. And we've got couple other brushes that go along with this set here that are really, really cool. These are all either made, the handles are made from reed or just dowels. They're just hand-carved dowels. But these brushes are really interesting in that the bristles come to a very, very fine point, as you'll see. And that fine point is, again, for calligraphy purposes, and I would imagine you could get down to a very small font size with these calligraphic brushes for the purposes of signing your signature or doing some real high contrast detail work. But I just love these selection of Chinese brushes and how they're packaged. And the shop I was in, actually, I planned on buying a lot more, but we were in a hurry, so I really couldn't pick up as many as I wanted to. So that's a really interesting collection. And here's a couple interesting things. These I also picked up at a yard sale. It was I think a pathologist who was headed out, and he was selling these. These are made by Corning. They're plastic vessels I use for, I don't know, fluids, body sample fluids or something, where you can label them, but they're forensic sample vessels. And along with that, at the same yard sale, I picked up these. These are not antiques, but they're probably about, well, maybe they are antiques. They're probably about 50 or 60 years old. 5 assorted picks there, which you can use for craft work or a lot of other, uses, of course. I love the way they feel, too, and they make that wonderful noise. We'll give you a few tingles in this video, after all, but I thought those were really, really cool. And then we've got one final thing that I'm going to show you, which I think is really something. And that is a menu. And this menu is the boissons, or spirits and drinks, a drink menu from the CN Tower in Toronto. And I think it's absolutely amazing, the selection they have. And here's an illustration of the tower. But you can go all the way up in this thing, and you can go to this top floor, and there's a fabulous restaurant up there and bar. And there's nothing like sitting at that bar and gazing out all the way, 360-degree view of Toronto and southern Ontario. Just amazing. You can get some amazing spirits of gin, vodka, rum from all over the world, blended whiskeys. You can get bourbon. You can get any beer, a bunch of craft beers as well, imported beers, panaches. You can also work off of their great martini list here. There's some fabulous martinis. They call it the Martinis de la Tour, and it's sort of a flight you can choose from. I think you can get samples, or you can get the individual martinis as well. But just to keep in mind, if you like and subscribe to our channel, we're going to bring you some videos, including my martini glass collection, which I think is really fabulous, and I'm really proud to show it off and do a video about it. We've also got cocktails on here. We've got wine, champagne. Some of the champagnes are reasonably priced that they have here. It's by the glass, this menu, but I just love this menu. And on your backside, you've got whiskey single malt, you've got cognac, you've got some exceptional cognac, for example, Remy Martin, Louis XIII, $195 a glass. Of course, that's what that runs about. But I just love this. It's a place that I really treasure, and I just absolutely I try to take really great care of this. Thank you all for watching. I really appreciate you taking the time to like and subscribe to our channel. We're just getting started. This is our first ASMR video, although we didn't delve too much into getting you to nod off as much as we did, just to kind of have a fireside chat about some of my collectible stuff, of which I have a lot more of. I hope you continue to watch. Thank you very much for watching. Good night. Get some sleep. Bye-bye.